Hello everybody, this is Randall. Thanks for joining today. I'm just gonna wait a little bit and let some people trickle in. Today's broadcast will be a little bit shorter than normal. We're still gonna cover as much as we can on the SSM side, so that's the Simple Systems Manager side. But I'm also going to open it up to Q&A a lot earlier than normal, and we'll kind of let the Q&A drive what we do with SSM. I have a couple of things set up just in case you guys are bereft of ideas, and we can run through those demos if we need to, but I prefer to just kind of live code something with everybody. You may have noticed that my office still doesn't have a green screen. I used to have a green screen set up in some of my previous broadcasts, but unfortunately, one of the lights in my office is out and I don't have a ladder tall enough to reach it. So I will attempt to fix that soon. You may also notice that there are some cords running up my office, and as a preview for one of the broadcasts that I am planning, it does involve VR, it involves the Lumberyard game engine, and it involves Lambda functions. So I'll let you kind of guess from there what exactly it is, but you'll OAuth in with Twitch and we'll do some fun stuff with a game client. So the broadcast today, what we're trying to do essentially is overview all of SSM. And SSM is kind of like an unsung hero of AWS and of the EC2 suite of services. In fact, I think SSM, just any one of the core features of SSM could be a service in and of itself. And to demonstrate that, I want to talk first about parameter store. So parameter store, let's just start a Jupyter notebook here and get started. And if you guys have been on the broadcast before, I'm sure you've seen this is the way that I do everything. Everything is a parameter store. Or sorry, everything is in a Jupyter notebook. It's just a fun and easy way to kind of get stuff done. So I'll make this a little bit bigger so everybody can see. And of course, the first thing we always do, import Boto3. Now, one of the things that we can do with parameter store is we can encrypt the stuff we're putting into it. And we can encrypt the stuff we're putting into it with the default service key through KMS, or we can put in our own keys in KMS and we can encrypt it that way. None of the things that I deal with are particularly sensitive, so I normally just use the default service key, or I don't use KMS at all. I don't encrypt it at all. And that's always worked for me. But you guys who have seen the broadcast before, you've probably seen me in some of the Lambda functions that we write, going through and using parameter store to get API credentials. So if I go over to the console really fast, I can show you that. This is my 2.5 factors of authentication. Now, SSM is, despite being a service in and of itself, actually a whole set of services in and of itself, it actually lives in the EC2 console. So you see the Systems Manager Services thing, which I realize stands for SMS and not SSM. You can go to Run Command, State Manager, Automations, Patch Compliance, Patch Baselines, but you don't really see parameter store in this first one. It's actually down here in Systems Manager Shared Resources. So this parameter store section is where I keep pretty much all of my API keys. So a lot of these are generated by CloudFormation, and if I go here, I don't think it'll show me what the value is. Oh, it does show me the value. So here you can see the value is 123, 123, 123. You can't really see that. Let me turn off the image on the broadcast, sorry. So if I make this a little bit bigger, oops. So if you go here, this value 123, 123, 123, you can see what this CloudFormation template got as input and what it stored in parameter store. I could also create parameters that used a KMS key. So I could go secure string and I can use this default service key like I said before, or I could use one of the keys that I create. We'll just use this default one for now. and I'll just put in a random value to encrypt hello world. And you'll notice it's already got that no echo thing turned on. Hello param. And I can create the parameter, and your parameter was successfully created. So now I can go into Bodo and I can say SSM equals bodo3.client SSM, and I can say SSM get parameters. And as always, I don't really remember the full invocation for this, so I'm gonna run help and just kind of grab at it. And it looks like I need names and I need with decryption equals true. So when you pass in with decryption equals true, you might have to pass in the key, but you also might not. It might just do it for you. So let's try this. Let's say SSM get parameters name equals, where is this thing? Name is an array, so we'll say name equals, so that means in one single network round trip you could get multiple parameters if you wanted to. It's just, this is really just an unsung hero in my opinion of AWS and EC2. Like whenever I use this service, I'm kind of blown away at how great the API is and how few people know about it. So SSM is Simple Systems Manager, and it's a whole suite of services that are within EC2, but you can use them everywhere within AWS. They're not just for use within EC2. And I'll talk about the EC2 specific components first, but I want to outline Parameter Store because I first learned about this from a guy named Chris Munns, who works at AWS. He just rejoined AWS a few years ago, and he's the head developer advocate for Lambda and serverless. And I knew about Parameter Store, but I had never considered using it in Lambda before seeing Chris Munns talk about it on stage at Serverless Conf. And it's not. So Suxi Salva asks, is it like DigitalOcean's user data? And it's not. It's actually, so the user data is like instance data that you kind of load and execute, right? On an instance. Parameter Store or SSM is much more featureful. And let me finish talking about Parameter Store, which is one of the features of SSM. And this is why I say it could be a service in and of itself, just because this is just a single feature in something that is considered a feature of EC2. Which blows my mind because in any other, like this could be a company in and of itself. That's how powerful this is. Okay, so we're gonna get these parameters, and I don't remember what I called it. I think I called it hello world or something. I called it hello param. So we'll go and we'll get hello param, and we'll say with decryption equals true. Did I spell something wrong? It's most likely that I spelled something wrong. Oh, this should be names, sorry. And I get back the value. And you'll also notice if I send in like multiple values, they'll come back in the order that I requested them. Although I don't know if Bodo3 would actually maintain that order, because in Python, as you guys probably know, dictionaries are not ordered. Although they may be in Python 3, I don't remember. But this is just a parameter store, right? And let's say you're writing your own Lambda function. So, we have our Lambda function, we have def, Lambda function event context. And then we have some sort of bootstrapping code. And this is a pro tip when you're writing your Lambda functions in Python. I would argue that you should always put the bootstrapping code in a function called bootstrap. And then actually call bootstrap. And the reason you want to do that is that the way the Lambda runtime pushes up errors into your logs, if it's a module level error, you're not going to get a stack trace on what exactly happened. But if it's inside of a method, you'll get that stack trace. So if I go and I say, SSM get, or I can say API equals SSM dot Twitter dot API, and then unpack SSM dot get parameters, whatever the credentials are, parameters, and then I just say unpack all those values, and it'll automatically spin up the API for me. And it's really, really powerful for storing pretty much anything. And they recently added the feature to have hierarchical data. So you can now have data that's kind of tiered. So you could have aliases, you can have stuff like this. So let's say I want to store my Twitter credentials. So I can store them in Twitter / the name of the app. So we'll say like where app is the name of the app. And then I can have dev, and I can have prod, and I can have that hierarchy of data. And if I want to get whatever thing, I can just select this hierarchy and it will return it. It's an extremely powerful service in and of itself. And I've started using it everywhere. So that's the only way that I ship around API keys now, especially, well, within Lambda functions at least, because it's so powerful. I don't even use environment variables anymore within my Lambda functions because this has kind of replaced the need for that. The only time I still use environment variables in Lambda functions are for DynamoDB or RDS tables. DynamoDB tables are kind of RDS query connection strings, but with the RDS connection strings, you got to make sure you're not including the password as part of that environment variable. I mean, you can, don't get me wrong, because you can encrypt environment variables in Lambda too. It's just I find SSM to be better in every way to environment variables. Okay, so that's one feature of SSM. If we're going to talk about the rest of it, then we've got to go back to this console, and I'll delete this. If we're going to talk about the rest of it, we've got to look at all of this other stuff here. So we have run command, state manager, automations, patch compliance, patch baselines, managed instances, activations, documents, maintenance windows, parameter storing, patches. So the core component of pretty much everything within SSM is this documents section. So documents are JSON files that define things that you can do with SSM. So I don't have any in this region that are owned by me, but there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these, thousands even. And we provide some sensible defaults. So we have these things like apply patch baseline, configure CloudWatch, all of these other things that you typically have to include either in the EC2 user data or as kind of a bootstrapping step for what you're building. And if you've worked with any kind of deployments at scale, you know that it's not ideal to enable either SSH or RDP into your instances. The goal should be that they are like cattle. So you're never SSHing. You're never going into your instances via SSH. If you're running a command or if you're doing something, it's done through some automated system. And this makes that very easy to do. You never have to enable the port 22 on your machine. So I want to just think about documents as a core component of SSM. Think of them as a noun within the SSM service. And then we can think about all of the different services as the verbs. So the first and like super obvious verb is run command. And run command will allow you to take all of your currently running instances that match whatever filter you want them to match, and you can run a command on them. And that command that you're running is one of those documents. And you can define the document. So you'll see here I have, configure Windows Update, refresh association, or AWS update SSM agent, or AWS install application. And let's look for things that are just on Linux for now. So run shell script is one of the things that we can do. So I'm just going to select all of my instances, and I'll say execute on one target concurrently and stop after 1 errors. And what do we want to execute? Like what's a good shell command? And if anybody types rm-rf, because I know that's coming, Oops, let me turn this off, sorry. Hi everybody, hi Stelly. So if anybody wants to shout out about or type out a bash command that you want to run, I'll give it maybe 30 seconds here while I grab a swallow of something, and then I'm gonna go with my own command. And no rm-rf. So CheckWob says this looks really useful, and that's the thing, right? Is we launched this at reInvent in 2016, and I feel like it just hasn't gotten the love that it deserves, because every time I use this, so I mean, full disclosure, I wrote a blog post about this. I just linked to it. I wrote this blog post about this last week because we just added the ability to do patch management in Linux as part of this service, and I was just every time I come back to the service, I'm like, wow, why don't I use this more? Because it's so powerful. And PearlBear asks, does it run as root? And PearlBear, no. So the SSM daemon, you can see it, it's open source. So it's not a daemon, it's an agent. There's a key differentiation there that I'm supposed to know about. Here's the agent. And InPay suggests that we fork bomb the entire, my entire fleet of instances. We probably could fork bomb all of the instances, and then we could try to recover from the fork bomb, because that's a common interview question. So if any of you guys have ever done kind of a DevOps interview, it's like, how do you recover from a fork bomb? And we could attempt to create a fork bomb and then recover using the SSM agent. So the SSM agent can run as root, but by default it does not. I think it creates its own user. At least as far as I remember. That could have changed in the time that I mean, we could find out by committing the cardinal sin of SSHing in. Okay, so oops. Let's so it is running as root. Okay, so yeah, it runs as root. But it's a virtualized instance, so not too bad. And it logs, so you can see the logs. So you can see all the logs and stuff for things that are going wrong. For instance, I tried to run PowerShell on a Linux instance, and it didn't work out. So let's run the command ls-la and just look at the output, and we'll say the working directory is /home/ec2 user, and execution timeout is 2 seconds. Will this work? Is my comment. That's a terrible comment. Oh, and this is the other really cool thing that they did in the console. And I wish more of the AWS services did this, because you guys who have watched the stream before, I don't fanboy out often about our services. In fact, I'm normally fairly critical of them. And it's not that our services are bad. It's just that as a person who uses them frequently, I feel like I'm hypersensitive to errors and problems in the services. And so I always like to call them out, and then when I get the opportunity to chat with those teams, I like to take back the things that we identify and bring it to them, and so that they can either fix it or tell me that it's not really a problem, which is sometimes the case, because a lot of times I'm just wrong. But every now and then, I come across a service and I'm just consistently impressed, and I'm trying to be humble about how great the service is, but it's just really good, and it makes me happy that it's really good, because not everything is. So this will automatically generate for you a command that you can use to run your script. So I could take this, I could take this and run it now, and it would work. And the fact that it auto generates that is just so nice. And I kind of wish more of our services had that option kind of at the bottom. And checklog asks, could this be used to grant an IAM user the ability to run specific commands on instances without giving them full or SSH access? And the answer is yes. In fact, that's one of the most common use cases for it. So a lot of people who have to go through audits or security controls, they have to give the auditors access to their systems, but they don't want to give them full access. They want to have kind of like supervised access to their systems. And one of the ways of doing this, because the auditors, they just run a couple commands and they look at the output and they're like, okay, you're good, move on. One of the ways of doing this is through SSM. And not only that, but you can put in and build policy documents that you have to comply to. Because keep in mind, this is still just one of, we've only covered 2 features of SSM so far. So this is the second of the features of a feature within EC2. So I'll show you some of the other services that are more useful for auditing and automation and stuff like that a little bit later. But let's run this command and see what the output is. It may not even work because I haven't tested it. Okay, but it worked. So let's see what the output was. We'll view the output, and okay, it's looked like IRC, da 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 da. So we got the output of the directory, da 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 da. All in all, pretty cool. And I think these also ran. So, I mean, these are just random instances that I have. I don't even know what half of them do. I guess we can find out what they do. So they're streaming Twitch Plays. Twitch Plays is when we built the Twitch Plays AWS console. That was one of the instances that I used to run Twitch Plays AWS console. Not sure what this does, but I think it's important. It's not promising. And then I have my IRC bouncer and a vlog. So all in all, like pretty straightforward sets of instances. And I can now do everything that I need to do to run these right from SSM. So I don't really need to go into these instances anymore. If I need to upgrade my blog, for instance, to a new, and ProBear asks, is SSM installed on Linux EC2 instances by default now? It is not. However, there are AMIs that are the exact same as the AWS regular AMIs, except they have SSM installed. And SSM isn't just for Linux, it's for Windows as well. So you can do a lot of the service management and other things that you need to do. So in the past, a lot of people have used the EC2 user data when they launch Windows instances to manage which services are enabled or which things they install. But I think SSM is an equally good way of doing that and a good way of maintaining it over time. Because there are 2 different problems in DevOps that we constantly try and solve. And the first is reducing heterogeneity within our clusters, reducing the heterogeneity of configuration management that we have to do across a suite of instances. And the second problem is maintaining that. So there's the initialization and then there's the maintenance. The initialization is mostly solved by CloudFormation and EC2 user data, but the maintenance portion of it, I feel like SSM is a really good way of solving it. And that's not to discount services like Puppet and Chef and Ansible and SaltStack and the myriad other issues. I even think that we have like a run Ansible playbook as part of one of our run commands. Like, at least we used to. Yeah, run Ansible playbook is even one of our supported run commands by default. So we don't really need to worry anymore about enabling SSH access in order to maintain this or to make our clusters homogeneous and reduce the config management load. So that's run command. And run command is kind of the way that most of the other services within State Manager operate. So the other services, by the way, are inventory, state management, automation, and patching. Did I get inventory? Is inventory in there? Yes. And also kind of maintenance windows, but I wouldn't really consider those services. The core services are run command, state manager, automations, patching, and parameter store. So the way that state manager and automations and patch baselines and patches work is they execute run commands. And those run commands, again, are defined by that noun that we talked about earlier, which are the documents. So like, let's look at one of these documents and figure out what they look like. So let's look at the shell command one. Run shell. Seriously? Name AWS. Run shell script. There we go. So I think that we can look at this. Okay, so here's the whole document. So it's a JSON document. It has a schema. It's got a description. It has some parameters, which are your inputs. In this case, the input is string list, which is a shell script to run. It's got a working directory, and it has an execution timeout. And again, it's pretty similar to CloudFormation. The parameter description types are. I mean, just the parameter names and things like that. So if you've worked with CloudFormation before, this should be really easy to use. And then it just has this kind of runtime config of do this. And we could even go look at some of the custom scripts. I can show you some of those later. But it's pretty darn powerful. Like let's look at one of these other ones. Update Linux AMI. So here's another one. So this is typically kind of a huge pain to do to maintain all of the latest AMIs and stuff like that. Do you guys say AMI or do you say AMI? Because when I was in London last week, or the week before, I can't remember, everybody said AMI, but I've always said AMI. So, and in French, I feel like it would be pretty confusing. AMI, AMI, I guess they're pretty different words. Not relevant, sorry. Most people usually say the letters. Okay, good. I'm not crazy then. It's just the people in London who are crazy, I guess. Because obviously there can only be one way to say something in tech. Funny story, until I was about 25, I did not realize that sequel was not the novel after the previous novel. I thought SQL and SQL were different things. Not until I was 25, until I was like 18. The same difference. Okay, so we have all these different parameters that we're sending in, like post-update scripts, and then we have some user data, and I'm pretty sure this is base64 encoded. So we could go into Python and we could say, hey, what is this user data that you're doing? Import B64 base64 base64 B64 decode, and we get, you know, the script that's trying to run. So in this case, that script is saying get contents, trying to download from the local instance metadata, the identity document. It's getting the region, it's getting all the other stuff, AWS install SSM agent, doing all, and it's got some stuff in there for Beijing and some other stuff for the GovCloud region. I bet they're gonna have to update this eventually. And then goes into temp while the retry count is less than the max retry count. Do AWS update Linux AMI, downloading the script, it downloads the script, it runs the script, updates the SSM agent, so on and so forth. Not that complicated, but if we go back and look here, it says run this on one instance at a time. This is the instance profile, and then it runs another command after that. So the documents that you can build are genuinely, they're not limited in any way that I'm aware of. Like it can do just about anything. You can see there are all these different kinds of actions, change instance state. I mean, it doesn't have a lot of introspection into VPC controls or even elastic network interfaces. It does have some though. Like you can do the basic ENI updates, but you can't update route tables and stuff unless you do that through an API call. So you would have to grant that instance the IAM permissions to make those API calls. But in general, you can do just about anything related to EC2 within these documents. And I find that very powerful. I'm surprised someone hasn't rolled their own configuration management system solely on top of this yet. And maybe it's because the overhead of getting involved with this is so low that they haven't needed to build any additional system. But if someone were to build something akin to Chef on top of SSM, I feel like you could get so much done so quickly, and you could probably make a lot of money. Okay, so that's run command, and that's documents that we've covered. The next thing to talk about is state manager. And give me 1 second here, sorry. And the way that state manager works is you can create documents which are, we can just run through it here. We can create something called apply patch baseline, which I've done before. And we'll say run on all of these, and the operation is scan, and I don't need a snapshot ID or anything like that. And this creates an association. And it will run, like I have a schedule expression here. I'm not sure if you guys can see that. It will run this, AWS apply patch baselines thing. Looks like every 30 minutes, and it will. I think I can go like this. And it will basically build up a state of my instances. What state are they in? And I don't really need to run this on these instances. Like the AWS apply patch baseline was actually a pretty bad example of a command to run. I should have chosen something more arbitrary, like iperf3. iperf3 performance is below so-and-so. Just because the AWS apply patch baselines kind of takes me into our next management system, which is our patch baselines and compliance. So if I go here to patch compliance, I can select all my instances, and it'll say, okay, 4 of your instances are up to date based on the security rules that you've defined. And then I've got my patch baselines. I've got this super secure Amazon Linux one where all security things are critical. And that's my baseline. I'm saying, actually the baseline that I'm running currently is the default patch baseline, which says, on all security things, mark them as critical and important. And on all bug fix things, severity of anything, wait 7 days before approving, and compliance level unspecified. So what I should really do here is set the compliance level on any security fix to critical. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to say critical. And I don't think I can edit this default one. So that's perhaps one tiny little flaw in this service, which is the only one that I found so far. Okay, so we've seen state manager, and of course it failed. I don't know why it failed. We could run the command apply patch baselines. Let's see what happens when we run the command run patch baseline. And we'll select all of our instances, and we have to specify an operation, and our operation is going to be scan, and then we'll just run. This really shouldn't take any time at all. Yeah, this is working. I'm not sure why. Okay, I think what it's probably doing within State Manager is I did not define the state, the output that I wanted. And that's why it's not creating the appropriate state. But rather than continuing to mess around with it, because I've never had need of this, I don't go through security audits. I will let you guys play with this one on your own. So the other kind of interesting component of SSM is the automation side. Give me just 1 second. Here we go. Cool. Sorry. So the EC2 Systems Manager automation side is a way for you to automate common tasks with those same JSON documents that you saw in the document section from before. You can do things like when you start an AMI, perform patching, bring us to a common patch baseline, install whatever my proprietary system stuff is. And you can also, it also has support for Lambda. So I can run arbitrary Lambda functions as part of my workflow. And these are the default kind of runs. AWS update Linux AMI is one of the automations that I have. Or update the Windows AMI. And these are interesting automations, but I think that the cool automations are the ones that you can do with Lambda. And I'm not going to spend a ton of time outlining those because I want to get to some Q&A and then we can kind of dive deeper on any one of these services. And then we have our patch compliance, our patch baselines. And then when it comes to patches, you can actually see kind of the individual security updates and stuff like that, that Windows publishes or that Linux publishes and stuff like that. I think this patches section is primarily for Windows though. And then we have maintenance windows. Maintenance windows is a cool feature. It's just a way for you to say like, bring this out of an auto scaling group or bring this out of work and do whatever task you need to do to before you start running an automation or before you start doing something, and then do whatever task you need to do after whatever run command I'm doing has completed. Okay, so I think that covers all of the services. One other thing that I wanted to mention was inventory. Where is inventory? The inventory section, inventory. Yeah, gather software inventory. So let's just run this command. Run command. So I've never run this command before. Inventory. It should be gather. They're not. It must be in the state management section. State manager, create association, inventory, gather software inventory. Here we go. And then I'll manually specify the instances. And I'll say run whenever. Applications, custom inventory. We don't need that. And we can write this to S3. We don't need to do that either right now, at least. Those updates, cool. Excuse me. So I'll say apply this now. And I probably want to gather some kind of output from this. So I may need to go and edit this to actually go out to S3. Yeah, I should have put this to output to S3, but I was lazy and I did not. Do you guys have any questions about the service or anything that you think you could use it for? I mean, I can walk you through how the agent itself works. So it's written in Go. It's weird. I'm gonna refresh this page here. Yep, I should have told it to output all this data to S3. That's my fault. It has a refresh association. So you can do setup inventory. This is what I meant to do. This setup inventory section. There we go. And then I do want to write the execution history. US East 1. And this is another, I think, small issue with this console is that it does not appropriately autocomplete the stuff. You can set config rules. It's just a really, I mean, this is, I never really deal with this stuff anymore just because I'm not managing a fleet of instances myself, but it makes me wish that these services had been around back in like 2012. It would have made everything so much easier. And I don't even know what the activations portion of the service does. It's for on-premise managed instances. And I think it's like how you actually associate those on-premise instances with SSM. But again, I'm not certain. So what do you guys think? What do you want to dive deeper on? I can talk at length about both Patch Manager and Parameter Store. The other things I'm less expert in. And by that I mean I know nothing at all about them. But we can learn together. I wonder where this association status is. And Ada32 says they need to review this 2 to 3 times before asking questions. And I mean, there's just so much stuff. There really is. Like, maybe it should be its own service. That's how much stuff there is. AWS S3, CP, S3. What do you mean that key doesn't exist? Oh well, I'm not gonna worry about it right now. So Checkwob asks, what is a patch in the system? Within Windows, a patch is kind of the stuff that you see here. It's anything that Windows releases as kind of a security update or a bug fix update. Within Linux, it's anything that comes from the defined packages on the system. So in Ubuntu, that would be apt-get. So whatever is in aptitude that you have set up as the package manager, it'll parse those versions and everything. Within RHEL, sorry, it's a bad habit. Within Red Hat Enterprise Linux, it'll be whatever comes from RPM. Within Amazon Linux, it'll be anything that comes in from the Amazon repos. And then Sugisawa is like apt-get update and apt-get update -y. And the problem with that is when you're running production systems, you don't always want to blindly apply patches, because as many of you are, I'm sure, aware, when you're writing software, sometimes you introduce bugs, and sometimes those bugs make it into production. So defensive DevOps says, you know, security patches you should pretty much always apply, but other patches you may want to wait. You may want to see them running in production for a while with no issues before you go and apply them, or you may want to even wait until there's a necessity. So there's some new feature that you need before you upgrade. And I know that seems kind of annoying and bad, but it just makes your systems have better uptime. It makes them more maintainable. As an example, when Elasticsearch first released their new version, I don't remember if it was 3.0 or 4.0, they removed the ability to add new indexes with a period in them. Or maybe it was new indexes with a dash in them. It was some kind of asinine change that didn't really matter one way or another. But we blindly applied that patch, and this at the time, this wasn't even documented in the release notes, and it stopped ingesting new documents with periods in them, or new. It stopped ingesting stuff to indexes with periods in them, and it silently failed on that. And we were on the beta, so we were waiting for beta updates, which is entirely our fault. Like I put none of the blame for this on Elasticsearch. I'm just saying that when you blindly apply patches to things, you're more likely to have a stability issue. And that's why something like this that allows you to kind of go in and manually approve a patch or manually apply a patch can be useful if you're still managing servers. And you guys have heard me before, I'm sure, talk about how much I love serverless just because I don't have to deal with any of this crap anymore. But if I did have to deal with this crap still, this is the way that I would want to do it. Okay, so if there are no more questions, I might move on to something else for the day, and I'll change the topic title and everything, but we could program a couple other things. And I've got to leave in maybe 20 more minutes. I don't have a ton of time today. But I'd love to keep going on SSM for maybe the next 20 minutes if we could. So if there's anything you guys want to talk about or anything you want to ask, there are no stupid questions, only my stupid answers. The best part, in about 20 minutes from now, is lunch. I'm very excited for lunch. Okay, so for patches, SSM interacts with the package manager, CheckWob asks, and that's correct. Yes, it'll use the default package manager on your machine. So think about, I wrote in the blog post a few weeks ago, actually it was only a few days ago, sorry. Let me find this again. This blog post here, it documents, so right now we only support Amazon Linux, Ubuntu Server, and RHEL. But the SSM agent will actually run pretty much anywhere because it's so I could even run it on my own machine. In fact, like we could do that right now. We could just grab this thing and go for it. That's a good thing. That's what we should do right now. We should teach SSM to run on premises. So we should teach SSM to run on my machine. This is a terrible idea and I'm gonna regret it. So it looks like it doesn't even have a Darwin target. Oh, it does have a Darwin target, great. But it looks like I might need to cross-compile it. So let me go onto a Linux instance and do it from there. I don't want to use this one. I want to use a different one. We can use this one. Nope, don't want to use that one either. Maybe this one? Yeah, we can use this one. Okay, so this is a T2. Let's just spin up a new instance and do it from there because it'll be faster if I put it on like a T2 large or something. So one of the things that I do whenever I'm going to be running like a compile job or something and I don't really want to wait around is I'll create a spot request. One, because it's cheaper. So let me just do all this real quick. Do I want a C3 large? No, I want bigger than that. Let's see, what do I have here? C3 8x large. Or I could get a C4 8x large. So this is complete overkill for what we're gonna do, but it's only 40 cents. So I'll select this and I'll say, give me the lowest price. No preference for AZ. And use automated bidding. Man, the spot console has gotten better too. See, these are the things that I don't use every day anymore. And I'll go ahead and add like 100 gigs. The storage is going to be the bottleneck here. And yes, we do have our AWS bill as an AWS employee somewhat taken care of, especially for experimental stuff. Now, if you're a service team and you're running on AWS, you do need to like consider your costs for obvious reasons. And I don't really need any security groups, but we'll go with default. And request is valid until, I don't really need to set when the request is valid until. Do I need an instance profile? I don't think I need an instance profile. Bad roll delete me is the one that I'll put on though. And yeah, there we go. So I'll launch this. It should come up, you know, basically instantaneously, because I don't think it'll take a long time for this to be fulfilled. Maybe a minute. Yeah, so it took a minute to be fulfilled. We'll get our instance, and then I'll use that to cross-compile the Amazon SSM agent for Darwin, and then we'll deploy it on my machine here, and we will run a command from the AWS console using my machine here. And I think that we're going to have to run activate first. Okay, here's the instance. So here we go. And it's not ready yet. It'll come up in a second though. I hope that whatever idiotic security group I chose is wide open. I wonder if this would compile on Windows at all, or compile on Linux, Darwin. What version of Go are they currently building for? That's the other question. I do remember not too long ago, actually, I made a pull request for this. Yeah, so on April 30th, I made a pull request for this to add ARM support. So to build ARM support. I wonder if they ever ended up doing that. Is that in here? ARM. No, they haven't taken that pull request yet. April 30th. There we go. So sudo yum search go lang sudo yum install go lang. Yep. And then let's see, how do they say we should install this? Sudo yum install -y rpm dev tools rpm build. I bet I don't really need these because I'm not going to be building those packages. And then I can git clone this. So we'll say, oh, I might need to sudo yum install -y git. Already installed, great. Git clone cd Amazon SSM agent. And we can do make build. And I bet there'll be some sort of error, because I typically have errors the first time I try and do something in Go. What is the error? Do I need to set Go env or something? Oh, I think I need to recompile Go with support for cross compiling. So let's sudo yum remove golang, yes, and then we'll git clone this. And I think they currently have SSM agent compiling for Go 1.6, so that's what we'll check out. So cd go git check out Go 1.6, right. Git fetch tags. Check out. I wish the tab complete worked. Well, let's go back up here and figure out how to compile from source. Are available. Install from source. The Go compilers support 8 different instruction sets. That's not an issue. Wait, if we already build this for Darwin, shouldn't I just be able to download it somewhere? Is that maybe in the download section? Let's see. No Name Namer says they are in love with Golang. It's pretty darn good. It is pretty darn good. There are components of Golang that I still can't stand. So if you guys ever wrote C back in the day, or if you write C now, I guess it's still the same issue. There's no real try-catch. So within Java or higher level languages, you always have this kind of try-catch scenario where you can encapsulate a section of code that you're trying to execute in a try-catch block, and then you can use the exceptions to propagate intelligent changes to the output of your error. Whereas in Golang, you have this really common syntax thing where you're just, if, you know, error does not equal nil, or equals nil, then do something. And you have to write that after basically every single statement. And then every statement that you're doing, you're basically saying if statement result equals, you know, method call. So you're doing this like error result method call, and then you're checking the error literally every time you execute. And that's the super annoying thing for me with Go, because I thought we had all agreed that trying and catching and exception handling was better than this insane method of writing your error control flow after every single command. But it works. Yeah, Hugo. Actually, the guy who wrote Hugo, Steve Franzia, I used to work with at MongoDB. So how do I build this? I also like my try-catch blocks in Python. Source code is under agent. So are these actual artifacts? No. Okay. Sudo yum install Golang. I think this is like version 1.6 or something that we install, or is it 1.7? See, this might not be set up for 1.7. Let me. No, it is set up for 1.7. Good. Okay. Great. So that means this should compile with and MDXP31 asks, can I show how to use parameter store to share secrets with instances? And the best way to do that, MDXP31, is to take what I've done here with SSM in Python and assign an instance role to your instances that have access specifically and only to the parameters that you want them to have access to. So you do the access management through IAM, and then you give that role to the instance. And then when you invoke SSM, whether you invoke SSM through the command line like AWS SSM get parameter, come on, AWS SSM, AWS SSM get parameters help names dash names hello param region US East 1. Did I delete hello param? I may have deleted this. So. Yep, I deleted it. So, I mean, we can put a new one, but essentially you get it, right? Like you can invoke these functions through either the AWS SDKs or the AWS CLI, even as part of your user data, to get those parameters and store them however you would like. So MDXP31, I hope that answers your question. If not, feel free to ask more stuff. I like it when people ask questions because then I don't have to think of random crap to do, like compiling, cross-compiling this Go binary into Darwin. And then Slayer Darth says, what is my opinion of the Amazon Echo? Alexa, play some music. That's my opinion. I love it. Alexa, pause. So I think Echo is great. I think it's really, really cool, really, really powerful. I think the Echo Show, which I have in the other room, is really cool. I have like 4 Echoes in this room. Is it still Prime Day? You guys should buy an Echo if it's Prime Day. And I work at Amazon, so I want you to buy all the things, but Echoes are pretty good. So I think the issue from earlier was that I did not set my Go root very well. Let's go back to this Amazon SSM agent. So let's see. Let's look at this makefile. Let's see. Build Linux. What if I just call Darwin? What if I just call build Darwin? Make build Darwin. And it can't find package GitHub, AWS, Amazon SSM from GoPath. So echo GoPath. So we'll say GoPath equals dot. How about that? Or is it looking for Go root? Does anybody who writes Go frequently? I think somebody earlier in the stream said that they write Go frequently. Who was that? No Name Namer, are you still in the stream? Because if you are, it would be awesome if you could tell me whether or not I need to set my Go path or my Go home to kind of run this thing. Because I like genuinely do not remember any of Go. Like last time I used it was version 1.2. So I'm just gonna try this again. Make build Darwin. Maybe we need to like go get. So Go path needs to be set. So I'm setting Go path, make build Darwin. So do you guys know what I should set my Go path and my Go root to? This is revealing my complete ignorance of Go, sorry. So No Name Namer, you seem to be the Go expert here. What did I set them to on my machine, on my local machine? Because I know I've done that before. Export Go path. Echo Go path. Go path is local. What's Go root? I don't even have a Go root. So what's my Go root on this machine? So I think that's the Slayer Darth says the Go root is the Go binary, but I have to set it to user local Go. I think it's probably like that folder. User local Go no. Then Go RPM-I. Yeah, let's say Go root equals user bin and then Go path equals slash user, or Go path equals slash home slash EC2 user. Make build Darwin. God damn it. So No Name Gamer says, so Clarence says, hey, what's up, dude? What are you making? Right now we're going down a dark road of Go programming where we're trying to cross compile the Amazon SSM agent into Darwin. SSM agent, or MKDR. I'm just gonna say export go path equals /home/ec2 user. Let's see. So we're exporting the path. Amazon Linux Go root. So Go root bootstrap. So you have workspaces. I see how it's all supposed to work. So is this go in thing? Is this go in? Go bin. So I think I need to make go path actually. I need to make go path this this thing. I need to make this Amazon SSM agent. And it still can't find these packages. Why can't it find these packages? GitHub.com, Amazon AWS. Let's just look at what the Travis thing does. I bet we could figure it out that way. What does this do? Can we look at the Travis logs? And then Slayer Darth is mentioning the junior developer who brought down the production database. So should I go get like this? But then I don't have a go path, so it might not work. I see. Export. Oh no, is my instance being terminated? Go path equals /home/ec2 user /Amazon SSM agent. Okay. So Slayer Darth says, did I see that blog post? I did. And did you guys see the response from that person who said that they were fired for doing that and that they were threatening legal action against the person? That is not how you run a company. If your junior developer has the ability to bring down your production database on their first day, then you have made a mistake. It is not the junior developer's mistake. It is entirely your own fault. And you should not blame someone you just hired. It was a little frustrating for me to read that, actually. Because I thought as an industry we knew better by now. So why does this say Go version Go 1.74 and then it says using Go 1.5, not checking for Go depths? Interesting. Let me export this. So Go, how does this all, let's say, make build Darwin again? So to solve this error, I'm going to do something very bad. What do you mean that's an invalid option? Don't ever do that on a real server. Great, it's working. It's downloading, it's doing things. We'll see if it actually makes it all the way through. Cool. So I think that built it. And then if we go into bin, and then we go into Darwin AMD 64, we should have all the things. Great, we did it. Amazon. Great, cool. So here's the agent and the updater and all these other things. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna say AWS, what is this, SSH. So I'm gonna say scp-i.ssh randhunt.amazon .pem. Is this too low for you guys to see? Is that better? And then I'll put in the path, which is going to be Amazon SSM agent, and I need to do scp-r Amazon SSM agent bin. I could do this with rsync too, and I'm just going to copy the whole bin folder actually to here. That file doesn't exist, really? Really doesn't exist? Ah. And then Slayer Dart says, didn't Amazon face a similar incident in 2012? I don't know. I know we've faced a few instances in the past where engineers have been able to run automations that have caused outages or periods of decreased API availability. And I don't think any of those engineers are ever disciplined, right? Because if they're able to do it, it's a failure of the tool. It's not a failure of the person. Like, the larger your company is, the more responsibility you have around your tool chain, because more and more people are going to be coming into the company from varied backgrounds, bringing varied perspectives, which is actually somewhat useful. And if your tool chain can't protect you or protect them from making what is to you a stupid mistake, then you failed to foresee that opportunity to make your tool chain better. And as a startup, it's a completely different story, right? As a startup, like, you're focused on shipping and all of these other things. but you still can't put the blame on the person who runs the command if the tool chain, if there weren't warnings, if there weren't big red signs that said, hey, don't do this. Like, if you give the person the credentials and the responsibility, you should have vetted them yourself previously. That's my thought on it. That's my personal opinion on it. And it's not like my personal opinion is the same as Amazon's. Like, I don't always speak for Amazon. But now we have our Amazon SSM agent. I didn't even realize there was this. So let me chmod plus X, this whole shindig. So let's do SSM CLI. Failed to load instance info from Vault. Failed to create Vault folder. So let me sudo mkdir /var lib Amazon, and then, yeah. I can never remember my password when I need to. Silly Randall. Is this even the right machine? Yeah, this is the right machine. Okay, so we've made that. And then what we want to do is we want to sudo chown that directory -r var lib Amazon. Right? Was it lib? Sudo mkdir. Let's run this again. /mkdir /var lib Amazon. Okay, that already exists. Good. Sudo chown -r rand hunt /var lib Amazon. And then, what do you mean it's still denied? Var lib. I see. Sudo chmod 0600. Is that right? Screw it. I'm not going to be using this long term. Amazon SSM. And Slayer Darth has another question. Docker question. We use Vagrant at work. I've set up Docker at home for a few of my projects. So far, so good. No issues. Then you have not gotten far enough into it yet. That's my SSM CLI. Why is this not working? Registration key does not exist. Okay, cool. So I think this is where we go back to the EC2 management console. And I mean, we can kill this instance now, so I'll do that. Cancel spot request, confirm. And we go into activations. And we create an activation. And what is the description of this? Mac OS X. Instance limit of 1. Create a system default command execution. If you select this option, AWS creates a new role for you named AWS EC2 run command. Yeah, let's do that. Activation expiry date. What's today? The 11th. We'll set this for the 12th. And default instance name. My laptop. So I'll create my activation. Slayer Darth, I don't really know on that error, sorry. This is my activation code. Hybrid environments is the section. Alrighty. Sorry, I'm just reading all of this stuff. So, this doesn't really specify what I need to do here, but I think if I go like Amazon SSM agent dash register dash code dash ID dash region, and region is going to be US East 1, and ID, I don't know what ID is going to be. I think that's probably these very secret credentials that I shouldn't have been showing to you guys. But it's okay, I don't think anybody's typing as fast as I am, and I'm going to delete all of this right after. Z. And then this thing is the activation ID. So we'll do that. And I think we're good. Successfully registered? No way. Sudo touch / Etsy Amazon SSM. Oops. Okay, whatever. Doesn't matter. So we'll view the result of this. Mac OS X is activated, and now maybe this shows up in my EC2 instances now. Is that true? That can't be right. That would be cool though. But if we go to run commands, or let's go to managed instances, and my laptop, the connection is lost. So I think I need to run this daemon persistently, which it may tell me how to do in one of these pages here. This is using service. So systemctl, I don't have any of those things. So why don't I just run Amazon SSM agent? So is the connection still lost, or? This is not relevant anymore, that's terminated. So is the connection still lost? Permission denied. Amazon SSM agent. I'm hoping that this thing kind of starts running soon, instead of showing as connection lost. Because it seems like it's doing something, doesn't it? Like it seems like it's doing something to me. So I need to kill all my containers before starting a new one up again. Again, Slayer Darth, I am not a Docker expert. Abby Fuller, who sometimes streams on this channel, is a Docker expert, and she may be able to help you out more. But if you're getting some container name is already in use by container, it sounds like you've got some sort of like dependency resolution issue, like layers. I want this thing to show as like an instance that I can do things on. Is there a way to like manually refresh this thing? What do you guys think? Oh, yeah, so this is the inventory that I was talking about earlier. And we didn't fully cover it, but this will show you all the different things that you have installed on your machines. And you can. There's another really great blog post about how you can use this to generate a whole history of things that are happening within your instances, and you can visualize that in something like QuickSight. But I really just want this connection to work. That would make my day. What is a resource data sync? This is the new thing, right? Okay, yeah, that's what it is. This is what outputs that data from, this is what allows you to visualize that information about the managed instances in QuickSight, is that resource data sync thing. Ah, I see. There's an error when calling AWS APIs. Error details cannot report platform type of unrecognized OS. Darwin. So, perhaps this does not work yet. It's interesting that you can build it and run it, but it doesn't actually work. Okay, I think that's all the playing around with this that I'll do for the day. Unless I could somehow override the OS to Linux or something. SSM agent help. Nope, doesn't really look like it. Okay, well, thank you guys for the tour, for joining me for that tour of SSM. I'm sorry we couldn't get it working on Darwin. I mean on OS X. I'll play around with it, see what's going on. Maybe it's just not supported yet. But the fact that we have a build target for it seems promising. Are there any other questions before I head out and go get some lunch? All right, doesn't really seem like there are any other questions, but you guys are welcome to ping me as always on Twitter @JRHunt, or you can email me anytime, randhunt@amazon.com. I have actually fully caught up completely with all of the emails that you've sent, those of you on Twitch have sent me. So that has never happened before in like a year of streaming. I've never been fully caught up before. So if you have requests, now is the time to get them in, because it took me a long time to fully answer all of your requests. Because some of you guys send me like 2-page emails and it takes me forever to parse out the actual question. If you're gonna send me an email, my advice would be put the question at the top in like big bold letters, and then include all the stack traces and other stuff as like an appendix, because it'll make it a lot easier for me to kind of ferret out what you're trying to do. But I do encourage you to send me those questions, because I do enjoy answering them and I learn a lot while I'm researching for some of the more complicated stuff. So really there's no question that you can't send me. That like I get stumped sometimes, and I'll tell you that I'm stumped and I don't know an answer, but please shoot me emails. Like I can help you name your next cat. All right, this was we didn't accomplish what I wanted to in the stream with getting this to compile on OS X, but it was fun kind of touring around. I hope you guys will go and use SSM in the future now. So I hope you can stop SSHing into your instances or using RDP to get into your Windows instances, and you can start potentially doing some other stuff where you can either use run commands or automations or the patch baselines to get the things you need done. As always, thanks for joining. Bye.